Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Ryan Gerber. I am the activities director here at Beaver Dam High School, and you are watching the 2025 Registration and Code of Conduct Review video. This video is part of the eligibility process that all Beaver Dam High School student athletes or students involved in activities need to watch in order to be eligible. We'll get into all the eligibility issues as the slideshow goes on, but if you hear anything or see anything in this video that you have questions on, feel free to reach out to myself or my assistant, Austin Keach, and we'll help you get straightened out with any questions you have. So with that, I'm going to go through the slides pretty quickly and really hit on the super important stuff. But just like anything, just like in a class, just like with a job, just like anything, there's a ton of things that go into being a student athlete, not only here but anywhere else. So make sure that you're getting on our website, checking out the parent and player handbooks, and again, reach out to myself or my assistant with any questions you may have. Just a couple things here. Picture of myself, Mr. Tronson, our building principal, and Austin Keach, my assistant, here with Benny. This is our contact information if you would need anything. Austin's great about, online tickets or scheduling or times. If you just have something real simple, give him a call. If there's a more immediate need, there's a more serious issue that you need to discuss, please see me. Also, we're on social media, and there is our Twitter and Instagram handles that you can follow us there as well. Note that students and families are responsible for being educated on what is required of the student to be eligible, maintain their eligibility, and what happens if eligibility is called into question. Make sure you go to our website. We've gone through a lot of efforts to make sure as much information is on our website as possible, so make sure you go there. The handbook and all the other resources that you'll need are there for your convenience. I want to just talk briefly of our mission statement and some of our ongoing priorities. So our athletic department or activities department mission statement is to guide and empower student athletes to build character through hard work, leadership, respect, discipline, accountability, and competition. We're dedicated to providing opportunities which will enhance the lifelong development of the whole person while conducting all activities with honesty, integrity, in accordance with the principles of good sportsmanship and ethical conduct. In other words, we're not just building student athletes for today, we're building good people and good citizens for tomorrow. Some of those ongoing priorities that I mentioned, we're looking at active participation in the school. We want, or it's a priority of mine, for each and every student to be involved with at least one thing. It doesn't have to be a sport, could certainly be a club or activity, it could be the performing arts. We'd love for every one of our students to be involved with something. We know the research indicates that when students are involved with things at school, then they become more engaged with not only their school but their community, and they do better in school. They stay out of trouble, they get better grades. So we want our kids, yes, to participate in our activities that we offer, because we want as many kids as possible out for those things, but we also know it has a benefit to the individual as well. Academic accountability is part of what we do. Remember, activities in general are a privilege, not a right. So part of that privilege is making sure that you're doing right by your grades, and we do a weekly grade check, and I'll talk about that later. Community connections and outreach. Each one of our sports teams is required to do some sort of community connection piece, and I'm sure you've seen some of our groups out and about. And we want to develop pride in Beaver Dam athletics and activities, as well as our school in general. We want to make sure we're recruiting and retaining student athletes, so we just continue to build and create a great culture of inclusiveness here in our department. So we're going to get into the meat and potatoes now. Here is our high school website, and I bring you here because I'm going to show you how to get to the activities page. Somewhere along the line, we've had some adjustments in our high school website and our activities site. So if you're looking for information on our high school activities website, make sure you go to the high school website first, and you know you're there by seeing this screen. It says welcome to Beaver Dam High School. And you're going to click on activities and athletics, or athletics and activities rather. And you should be brought to this page here. This is what it looks like right now. If you don't see this banner, if you see an older version, you're not in the right spot. And if you're really struggling, let us know. But if you see this, you're in the right spot. You notice on the left-hand side here, you've got a number of buttons to press or quick press, all forms, releases, and permissions. We'll talk about that later. Athletic training and medical forms. We'll talk about that and a couple other pieces. As well as at the top, all of our athletics and teams and coaches are there. Our calendar, our school calendar is there. Special events you'll find here like homecoming, prom, the Seckle scrimmage, all there. We have a tab just for our performing arts, just for activities, just for our clubs and organizations. And then right off the screen here is our CTSOs like DECA and Skills USA. So let's get into it. Let's talk about registration requirements. These requirements must be taken care of before you're allowed to practice this year. So number one, you must complete online registration. That is done through Skyward, just like last year. The only difference this year from last year is this video is not embedded in the Skyward registration. It's rather found on the athletic page. The fact that you're watching this, hey, you found us. So make sure you're completing the online registration through Skyward. You're not allowed to participate without that registration being taken care of. The second thing is your physical card. You either need to have a new physical done or an alternate year card. Now, real quick on physicals, I'll talk a little bit more about it in a second, but the WIA requires that each student who participates in athletics has some sort of validation of their physical abilities, physical fitness, if you will. In other words, that they're healthy enough to compete each and every year. But you only need to get a new physical every other year. So that requires you go to a doctor every other year. Athletic fees must be paid. This includes past fees as well as present fees. In Beaver Dam, it's $100 to participate in athletics. That $100 is a one-time cost. Whether you do one sport or you do 5 sports, it's $100. And if you have outstanding fees, you need to get those paid. If payment is an issue, if this is something that could be prohibitive to you participating, make sure you have a conversation with me. And finally, the last thing is your code of conduct meeting, which is this video. Now, I want to go back to physical cards. If you have not booked your physical with your doctor, if you know you need a physical and you need to get a doctor signing off on it, and you haven't scheduled it yet, make sure you do so. Doctors' offices at this time of year get incredibly busy with physicals, and you can be delayed quite a bit. If you're really out of choices, if there's no way you can get your physical in by the time fall sports roll around, you can check out Watertown Regional Medical Center. Their occupational health center has been accommodating to us to go to. It's a $50 out-of-pocket expense to get your physical done. But as long as you call down there ahead of time, you're usually able to get in the next day. Again, it's preferable for you to go to your doctor. This would be a last resort, Hail Mary kind of situation. But it is an option if you're looking. To the point of now when I'm recording this, Marshfield Medical Clinic has not provided any physicals in the building as has been done in the past. A little bit more information on physicals. Remember, as I mentioned, the WIA requires all student athletes to have an updated physical on file with the athletic department each year. If you had a physical this year and it was doctor approved, you need to do an alternate year form, which can be found on the athletics page. This is signed by a parent, not a doctor. So if you need an alternate year card, the parent signs off on it. And this last year I made it an electronic copy so you can sign it electronically and email it to myself or Mr. Keach. If you didn't have a physical this year, you need a new physical. These forms are also on the website. You can download them, take them to your doctor, have them filled out. Again, something from this page, this physicals page, needs to be on file each and every year. and you can find all the paperwork on the athletics page. Again, going back to the athletics page, if you click on athletic training and medical forms, that will take you to all the forms that you're going to need for. If you don't know if you need an alternate year card or a normal physical, give us a call. Give Austin Keach a call. He's got giant binders of that information. Make sure you're checking with us, and we'll get you the right information. Maintaining eligibility requires maintaining good grades. That means no Fs. We do a weekly grade check every Monday. So on Monday morning, Mr. Keach will be pulling grades. He'll get that information out to coaches as well as myself. If you have an F, you're not allowed to participate in competition. Now, you couldn't practice, but you cannot participate in competition until you get that grade up to passing. Now, some sports have chosen to hold students out of practice if you have an F. You still need to show up. You still need to clarify with them. So if you have an F, don't just do a no-show. Make sure you're communicating with your coach. You'll also be hearing or getting an email from me about it. If you feel like you've gotten your grade up to passing, you need to check with me. You need to send me an email, say, hey, Mr. Gerber, I got my grade up. Can you check it? And I'll get back to you. This is the student-athlete's responsibility. At the high school level, it's the student's responsibility to pass their classes. It's also their responsibility, if they get into trouble with their grades, to make it right. So I should be seeing emails from students asking me to check their grades rather than from coaches or from parents. Make sure you empower your students to A, not get Fs, but B, if they do, to make sure they're taking care of it and they're reaching out to me. That's a responsibility we want to start developing in these lifelong learners. Attendance and tardy are also going to be priorities this year. If you are absent from school unexcused, you do not practice that day. If you are unexcused for just one class period, you do not practice. And if it's game day, you do not play. Now, there are mistakes that happen, but this is to cut down on kids skipping class. You are student athletes. That's the student coming first in this. So you need to be at class all day. Now, if something comes up that you need to miss school for, say you have a doctor's appointment, well, that should be excused by a parent. Parents, please make sure you're calling the office and excusing them ahead of time. If a funeral comes up, we've had a number of funerals in the past several years where students have missed a good portion of the day. You know, that would be something that you get excused at the school, but parents need to call them in. So again, if you're gonna miss times for something, I know like in the springtime we'll have juniors and seniors traveling to colleges and checking things out. Perfectly okay as long as it's excused, but if it's unexcused, then they do not practice. They're still expected to show up and watch, but they do not practice. And if it's game day, they don't play. Now, if there's a discrepancy, again, reach out to me and we'll work on it. If I find out a student's lying, if they say, hey, Mr. Gerber, you know, I was there in class and my teacher accidentally didn't mark me there. Well, if I look it up and I find out you're lying, then the punishment's double. Again, showing responsibility for our actions. Tardies will also be a major emphasis this year for the school. Showing up late to class can and will result in a penalty in terms of your playing time. So you want to play, you signed up for it, make sure you're passing all your classes, you're showing up to class, and you're showing up on time. And this is in addition to any other code of conduct or handbook language that we have. Speaking of that handbook, which can be found on the activities page, be sure to review that with your parent or guardians. The code of conduct specifically is found on pages 8 through 18. In that it lines up all the different disciplinary items. School attendance can be found on page 17. Unexcused absences are in there as well. And then I do want to follow up on transportation policy, which can be found on page 29. This is something we've gone back and forth on as a community since really COVID, when things were wide open. We're obviously not in COVID anymore. We obviously want to return to normalcy, and every year that passes we get there. But one of the things that has persisted or been a struggle, and not just Beaver Dam but across, is transportation. I just want to read this out loud. All students must travel to and from contests, whether in town or out of town, in a vehicle supervised by their coach or designated chaperone. To and from is defined as travel from Beaver Dam High School to the opponent's school site and back. Participants may return home from an away contest with parents or guardians, providing prior approval has been obtained from the Associate Principal of Athletics, that would be me, and has the appropriate waiver and has been signed with at least 48 hours notice. Emergency situations may be taken up with the athletic director. In other words, it wasn't that long ago where it was common that every kid traveled to and from events with the team. Part of being on a team is being with the team. And the great thing about high school athletics is it's not club. There's a lot to be gained from being with the team. So we strongly urge students to be traveling with the team, and frankly, that's our strong emphasis. There are things that come up, and we get that. So if you must travel with a parent, and these should be rare situations, then a travel release form, which is done electronically, can be found on the athletics page, and it must be turned in at least 48 hours in advance. You'll find this by going to all forms, releases, and permissions. Again, it needs to be done 48 hours in advance. I will follow up on each and every one of those because we have had students forge these things and lie. So remember, this sports and activities are an extension of school. So when they're in the school's jurisdiction, they're under our liability. We need to make sure that they're safe at all times. That's partially why we want them traveling with the team at all times. But that's also why I follow up on every one of the travel releases. Again, needs to be done 48 hours in advance. That has not changed over the last few years. Before we go any further, I want to talk about Title IX, which has become a larger and larger item that every public institution has been dealing with, and something that we've addressed with our student athletes and will continue to address with student athletes every year at our sign-up meetings. But Title IX essentially ensures that schools receiving federal funds provide equal opportunities for all genders. Most people know that from college Title IX. But this also guarantees fairness in sports and activities for male and female athletes. This covers equal funding for sports programming, prevention of sexual harassment that occurs within district programming, prevention from sexual assault, dating violence, domestic violence, stalking, access to quality facilities and equipment, equal opportunities to participate in sports, and fair coaching resources. In other words, we want to create a safe and level playing field for all of our students, regardless of gender, to participate as student athletes here at Beaver Dam. We want them to be safe. So Title IX, real quickly, applies to each and every student, all of our coaches, all of our support staff, in our entire school district. So if you're a student athlete in college, you're also required to do this training. So for our seniors that might be going on, you'll be doing Title IX training as part of your programming there. And really, this can empower students to take action instead of feeling hopelessness. So if something's going on at school, if something's going on within the team that's making you feel uncomfortable, you need to come talk to us. Not everything is Title IX. However, we have seen across the state of Wisconsin Title IX issues pop up, and we want to make sure that we take care of these things in a responsible and sensitive manner. Here's some more items for grades and code violations. Any student who receives an F for second semester, and this would also apply for first semester, So any student who receives an F for second semester, so if you did receive an F, hopefully you're in summer school right now, will miss competition for the first 21 consecutive calendar days beginning with the earliest allowable game. That is a WIA rule. That's not a BDHS rule. That's a WIA rule and can be found on their website. Beyond that, our handbook calls for a number of different code violations. We have 4 different levels here. First is conduct unbecoming, and these are could be any number of things, but result in a 1 or 2 game suspension. And then once we get into our traditional code violations that you see in the handbook, the first code violation is 25% reduction in season scheduled games that's starting immediately. The second code violation is a 50% reduction in season scheduled games starting immediately. And the third code violation results in a 1 calendar year suspension. And should you receive a 4th code violation, there would be a permanent ban. All of these things are spelled out in the handbook. Weightlifting and training is becoming more and more important each and every year. In order to do great things, you must do great things. You don't become great doing average things. So to be a better athlete, you need to train to be a better athlete, and that starts in the weight room. It's not like years and years ago when you could just work and show up and you're a better athlete. You got to put some sweat equity in, and that's why we've committed to our training program and providing a great atmosphere and tools for our student athletes to get better. Each and every one of our teams is expected to be participating in some way, shape, or form in the weights program, and we've certainly increased the number of opportunities during the school day for kids to get into the weight room. So there really is no excuse not to be training. And we're not talking about always getting bulky, right? We're talking about getting stronger, staying strong, maintaining strength during the season, injury prevention kind of things, because we can all do better, we can all be better. A couple weight room rules. Remember, you cannot utilize the weight room without a supervisor. We are offering currently the summer school program, which is free. There are multiple options for that. And then remember, once we hit the school year, we have a 0 hour that takes place before school. And then we have an advanced strength group during the school day. We have wind time as long as you're supervised. And then we have team time, which is the hour plus right after school for teams to get in. A reminder that our trainer, Jason Cerconi, is not an official supervisor of the weight room. So if you and your teammates want to get in, your coach should be supervising you. If you are in need of somebody late in the day, you can always find me. Speaking of Jason, by the way, he's here every day around 2:40. If you're having issues that you need to see him about, make sure you schedule an appointment. And I just want to put in a plug. We've invested in the Mueller Revive leg boots and half jackets recently. Make sure that you're using those because they're going to be a big help. Jason will help you get using those. But remember, none of that equipment leaves a training room unless you have permission to do so. So we've invested heavily in those areas to provide our student athletes with an advantage to rehab and to bounce back from competition. We want to make sure that that opportunity is there for all students going forward. A couple WIA changes that took place this year that I want to touch on. Beginning with the 2025 summer, 2 major WIA changes will affect high school student athletes. Number 1 is NIL has come to Wisconsin, name, image, likeness. Before I even mention any of the top 4 things there, I want to point out for those who are maybe skeptical of NIL, this is not college NIL. And we all can have our opinions of what NIL has done to the college athletic scene, but this is not college NIL. This allows for some flexibility for some students. It allows for some things that might have been violations in the past to go without. But it is fairly restricted in Wisconsin. So that's why number 1 there is in red. You need to check with me first before accepting any NIL. Because Wisconsin's NIL system is so restricted, there is still opportunities for a student's eligibility to be lost if they accept an NIL deal. Okay, so make sure that if somebody or some group or company approaches you about NIL, that you check with the athletic director, that'd be me, before accepting. Some of the big no-nos: no school, conference, WIAA uniform or affiliation can be mentioned in NIL. There is no pay for play or transferring for undue influence, and you still cannot sign a contract. So, for instance, if somebody approaches you with an NIL deal and it says that you're signing away your NIL or your name, image, likeness into perpetuity, that would not be allowed in WI eligibility rules. And then the second major change was coaches contact. Most of you are going through this right now. But this allows for unlimited coaches contact in all sports through July, from June and July, with a dead week of July 4th. This is supposed to assist students who weren't able to get to academies or AAUs as much as maybe others. For most of our kids here in Beaver Dam, you'll see some changes, but not a ton of changes. But this really cleans up a lot of the language for our coaches and provides them a little bit of flexibility. With the coaching contact, remember, nothing can be required still. So if a coach says you must show up to this if you want to play, you can't require them to be at all of these things. I want to touch on dual sport athletics. This was something that the Badger Conference allowed for the first time last fall. Dual sport athletics within a season. For a long time, the Badger Conference did not allow this. We put a procedure in place, and we had a couple student athletes that took advantage of this. If you're interested in participating in multi-sports within a season, you need to come see me. And we have a procedure that must be followed. You'll meet with me. We'll talk about your plan. We'll talk about how this would even work. We then would have a meeting with your parents, guardians, and the coaches involved. And for this to happen, or for you to be allowed to do multiple sports, coaches from the separate sports must approve it. They are allowed to say no, though. They're allowed to say this isn't going to work, and nothing will be held against them. If they say no, then you as a student athlete have to make a choice. So they don't have to allow it to happen. So for instance, if you're out for football and you want to play boys soccer and the games are on the same dates, for instance, coach could say, no, this doesn't make sense. And that would be his or her right. So again, just because you want to do dual sports doesn't mean it'll be approved. And then there is a informal contract that we sign because you will have to choose a preferred sport over the other, and then there are items that have to be met. Expectations of student athletes at Beaver Dam High School. Remember, being a student athlete means putting the student before the athlete and being held to a higher standard in school, the community, and everywhere you represent BD. Having pride in yourself and your family and your relationships, having pride in your team and your teammates and the logo on your uniform, your school, your community, and your home. Being disciplined in your academics, being present in class and doing your best in classes, staying away from negative influences, and discipline in your training. And respecting yourself, your opponent, your teammates, family, school, and community members. Respecting officials and coaches, whether in victory and defeat, and respecting the outcome. These are all expectations that we have of you as a student athlete. We also have these expectations of our fans, frankly, both home and away. And I should note, for our student athletes, your eligibility in that code of conduct, that's in effect 24/7, and that extends beyond our campus. So whether you're here at school or you're away or out in the community or wherever, that code of conduct exists. For fans, since we're all listening now, the WIA did push through language that says that if a fan is ejected from a competition, they not only have a ban from the next competition, but they are required to take the NFHS free online class on sportsmanship. So again, if a fan has to be ejected for behavior, there are some additional consequences that haven't been put in place that were this year by the WIA. Where can you find information? We've talked about the high school activities page, which is there. If you want Badger Conference information, you can go to badgerconference.net. If you're looking for league schedules, you can go to badgerconference.org. At this point, we've concluded the video portion of the meeting. What I need you to do now is you need to scan the QR code or click on the link. And what you're going to do is both of those will take you to a Google form that needs to be filled out by the student and the parent or guardian that's watching this. If in your family you have brothers or sisters that are also athletes, this needs to be completed for each one of them, so I have a record for each kid. So please do not fill out one form for the whole brood. Make sure that each student that's participating in sport has filled this out. If you should have any questions, feel free to reach out and ask. You can get a hold of me here at the high school. The number is 920-885-7313, and my direct extension is 2004. Again, this has been the 2025 registration and code of conduct video. I hope to see you at the field, at the court, on the pitch, at the stadium, and hopefully this will be another championship season. Go Beavers.